they said the river was alive. Not alive like the fish that swam beneath its dark waters, but alive like a spirit that could see, hear, and hunger. In the heart of a forgotten village, cradled by endless forests and wide, restless skies, there was a river that the people both worshipped and feared. By day, it flowed calmly, its waters glistening like glass under the African sun. But by night, the current whispered like a voice, low, unending, patient. And those who dared walk too close swore they saw faces in the water, pale and desperate, reaching out before vanishing into the depths. For generations, the elders spoke of a pact, an ancient curse older than memory itself. The river, they said, demanded a bride every 10 harvests. A young woman, untouched and pure, chosen from among the people. She would be dressed in white, her head crowned with cowrie shells, her wrists wrapped in red cloth. At dawn, she would be led to the riverbank, her feet bare, her eyes lowered. And there, before the entire village, she would step into the water, and never return. The people never spoke of what happened beneath the surface. They only knew that if the bride was not given, the river would rise. Crops would fail, storms would strike, and children would vanish. And so, out of fear, the tradition endured. But in this generation, everything changed. Her name was Adana. She was 17, with skin the color of smooth earth and eyes that carried the warmth of 1,000 dawns. She was known for her kindness, her laughter that echoed across the fields, her gentle hands that healed small wounds and plucked thorn from careless fingers. Everyone loved her. But when the whispers began, that the river was stirring, that a bride must soon be chosen, it was Adana's name that fell from the lips of the diviner. The village froze. Mothers wept. Fathers looked away. And Adana herself. She stood still, her chest rising and falling, her hands trembling at her sides. No one argued. No one could. The river had spoken. And so the countdown began. Umuro village lived in rhythm with the seasons. They planted yams when the rains came, harvested when the skies cleared, and gathered under the moonlight to tell stories of gods, spirits, and ancestors who still walked among them. Life was simple, yet always shadowed by the weight of the river's demand. The elders remembered well what happened the last time the ritual was broken. 20 years ago, when the chosen girl had fled into the forest instead of embracing the water, the river rose in fury. Fields flooded, huts washed away, and 3 children were swept into the depths, never seen again. Since then, no one dared question the ritual. Adana's family lived on the edge of the village, close enough to hear the river at night. Her father, Okeke, was a farmer with broad shoulders and sorrow etched deep into his face. Her mother, Ifeoma, was soft-spoken, carrying both love and fear in her heart. They said little, but their silence screamed louder than grief. Every night, Adana would lie awake, listening to the river's whispers. They were faint at first, like wind in the grass. But as the days passed, the voice grew clearer. A woman's voice, soft, melodic, yet heavy with sorrow. "Come," it whispered. "Come, child. Come to me." Adana pressed her hands to her ears, but the voice seeped through skin and bone. It curled into her dreams, filling them with visions of dark waters and pale hands reaching from the depths. Her friends avoided her. Children pointed at her in silence. Some villagers began to treat her like she was already gone. She walked through the market and felt eyes burning into her back. She was alive, yet already a ghost. But in the shadow of fear, a spark of defiance burned. Adana was not like those before her. She refused to believe that her life was nothing more than an offering. And deep in her heart she swore. She would not go quietly. The night before the ritual, the village prepared. Drums echoed in the square, but the music was hollow. Women ground millet in silence. Men sharpened their cutlasses with blank stares. The priest painted white chalk on the shrine of the river goddess, murmuring incantations under his breath. Adana sat alone, her white garment folded neatly beside her. The cloth smelled of camwood and smoke, the same cloth every bride had worn before being swallowed by the river. She stared at it, her breath shallow, her body trembling. That night the dreams returned. Only this time she was not alone. In the vision, Adana stood at the edge of the river, the water black as night. From its depths rose a woman, tall, draped in flowing water that clung to her like silk. Her skin shimmered like moonlight, her hair spread like seaweed, and her eyes glowed with unearthly fire. "You are mine," the woman whispered. "As your mothers were before you, so you shall be. Bride of the river, daughter of the depths." Adana tried to run, but her feet sank into mud that pulled her down. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed by laughter. The river goddess reached for her, and Adana woke with a cry, her body drenched in sweat. Her mother rushed in, holding her trembling form, whispering, "Hush, my child. Tomorrow it will end. Tomorrow you will bring peace." But Adana stared at her mother, her voice breaking. "Peace or silence?" At dawn the ritual began. The entire village gathered at the riverbank. The sky was heavy with clouds, the air thick with silence. Drummers struck a slow, steady rhythm as Adana walked barefoot down the path. Her white garment glowed against her dark skin. Her cowrie crown clinked softly with each step. She kept her eyes forward, but her heart pounded like a trapped bird. The priest raised his staff, chanting the ancient incantation. The villagers bowed, some weeping, others too afraid to watch. The river seemed to shiver, its surface rippling though no wind blew. Adana reached the edge. The water lapped at her toes. She closed her eyes. And then for the first time she spoke, not to the people but to the river itself. "I am not your bride. I am not your sacrifice. If you want me, take me." The water roared. In an instant the river erupted. Waves crashed against the bank, knocking villagers off their feet. The sky split with thunder, lightning flashing like jagged knives. And from the depths the goddess rose, taller than trees, her voice a shriek that rattled bones. "You defy me," she thundered. "Then your village shall pay." The waters surged forward, swallowing the bank, pulling huts into the current. Villagers screamed, scattering in terror. But Adana stood her ground. Her body trembled, yet she did not run. She raised her hands and shouted into the storm. "If you hunger, then take me. But I will not kneel. I will not be silent." The goddess's eyes blazed. She reached out with hands of water, wrapping them around Adana's body. For a moment, it seemed the river would tear her apart. But then something shifted. The current stilled. The goddess froze, her grip trembling. And in her eyes flickered something strange, sorrow. For the first time, the goddess spoke not as a monster, but as a woman broken. "Long ago I was betrayed," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I was a bride too, drowned by my people, offered to the waters against my will. And so, I demanded from them what was stolen from me. A bride for a bride. A life for a life." Her form wavered, her voice cracking like dry earth. "But you have given me defiance. You have given me back the voice I lost." The river fell silent. The villagers, soaked and trembling, watched in awe. The goddess lowered her hands. The storm began to fade. Adana stood untouched. Life, resolution and moral. When the waters finally calmed, the goddess sank slowly back into the depths. Her voice lingered in the air like a sigh. "No more brides. The river is free." And then silence. The villagers stared at Adana, their mouths open, their eyes wide with fear and wonder. For the first time in living memory, a bride had survived. The priest dropped his staff. The drums fell silent. Mothers clutched their children, fathers whispered prayers, and the elders shook their heads in disbelief. Adana stood tall, her wet garment clinging to her body, her eyes burning with a fire no river could drown. From that day on, the curse was broken. No more brides were taken. The river flowed as it always had, deep, dark, mysterious, but it no longer demanded sacrifice. The people of Umuro told the story for generations. Some said Adana had been chosen by the gods, others that she had tamed the river with her courage. But all agreed on the lesson: that silence is the river's true weapon, and that sometimes, defiance is the only prayer strong enough to break a curse. So, I ask you, if the river whispered your name, would you bow your head and step into the water? Or would you stand like Adana, and speak when silence is demanded? If this tale chilled your heart, remember, every legend carries a warning. The question is, will you listen?